Welcome to Left, Right, Center, where we are covering Colorado politics first. I'm political specialist Shaun Boyd with our analysts, Republican Dick Wadhams, Democrat Mike Dino. The Democratic and Republican parties will be electing new chairs in the coming weeks. Both parties are losing smart, strong female chairs.
Yes.
We all agree on that. Morgan Carroll and Christy Burton Brown. So let's talk about who might replace them. On the Republican side, you have 4 election deniers who want to exclude unaffiliated voters from primaries and eliminate mail ballots, both things voters overwhelmingly like. Dick, you wrote a column about this. I don't get it.
Well, I do. I mean, unfortunately, Shaun, the Trump MAGA contention in the Republican Party has totally taken over the functions of the state central committee. And right now we have actually 6 candidates, all of whom are adopting those positions you just said.
Yeah.
And frankly, they're all out of touch. They do not understand that Colorado has changed, and that in order for the Republican Party to be relevant and not impotent, that we've got to adopt the way Colorado is today. Now, that's not because to say we should all be liberals. What I'm saying is that we have to adjust to having unaffiliated voting in the election. We have to accept the fact that voters like mail ballots, and we have got to get off this stolen election conspiracy stuff. We've got to get off it. But all 6 of these candidates agree with that stuff, and it's going to drive the Republican Party deeper. And I hate to be critical of my party, but that's where we are right now.
Yeah. Mike, Democrats, they're in a pretty strong position in this state right now. So what can these 3 candidates that are running to replace Morgan Carroll really do to improve the party's standing here?
Well, maybe do no harm. The Democrats are in a good place. Certainly with the announcement this week of Adam Frisch deciding to run again against Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. Dems would love to get that seat and hold everything else in Congress. They will have a challenge in the 8th in holding that because it was a very narrow margin. So they've got some work cut out. I mean, there's 3 men running. Tony Kubik from Larimer County, Howard Chow, who's vice chairman of the party,
right,
and then Shad Murab, who worked for Governor Polis and Senator Hickenlooper, whose wife's former Senator Kerry Donovan. So they all have some credentials to make it look like they can run the party. But I do think the thing is, I mean, if the Democratic Party is plateaued, they may spend at least their first term explaining what went wrong.
So, we talk about the Republican Party and having the, right wing of the Republican Party. The left has its left wing, too, the socialist wing of the party. How much do Democrats have to worry about them? You talk about the do no harm.
Well, I think Democrats are a little more accommodating to the far left. There are shared values. Certainly, Democratic Socialists maybe take it to the extreme and it begins to bother people. But at this point, I think there's a reasonable peace among the different factions.
We'll see about that, right? Well, this week, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley announced she is running for president. If elected, she would be the first woman of color to hold the office. Meanwhile, another South Carolina politician, Senator Tim Scott, appears to be close to announcing his bid for president.
President Trump.
He hired former Colorado
He's
Senator
very nice
Cory
to your
Gardner
mom.
to co-chair his super PAC. So, Dick, 2 establishment Republicans from the same state, no less. It seems like they might help Trump in this by splitting the vote.
Well, a big field will help Trump, like it did in 2016 when there were like 13 candidates and Trump just kind of marched to the nomination. But I don't think this is a bad thing, Shaun. First of all, Nikki Haley and Tim Scott are wonderful public officials. They're very respected. They both would make excellent presidents. There will be more getting into the race. DeSantis is probably going to get into the race. There's going to be kind of a mini primary going on for a while between the non-Trump candidates. And unlike 2013, I think someone will emerge from the mini non-Trump primary, and then game on. It will be a head-to-head between Trump and non-Trump, and I think that's where the party will nominate a non-Trump candidate, and while we will be in a very strong position to win the general election. But
a sense of who might emerge?
Well, right now, you'd have to put your money on DeSantis. I mean, in every poll, he's either like tied with Trump or even leading Trump. And so that's the challenge for people like Haley and Scott. Can they they be the real challenger to Trump? I don't know. But we'll find out.
I think, Mike, that Trump sees DeSantis as his main challenger. You think that's why he seemed to be encouraging of Nikki Haley getting in the race?
He wants more people in. I thought it was interesting, though. Nikki Haley wants a test for people in office over 75 years old. And Lindsey Graham had a great line, though. He says anybody who wants to run for office should have to take a sanity test. And that may be true, but it does behoove him to have more people in the race so they could weed each other out, and then they're weakened and he can take them on.
All right, let's turn closer to home, the state capitol. This week, 4 Democrats introduced a bill that would allow cities to open overdose prevention centers where people could use illegal drugs under supervision. Mike, what are the chances of this bill passing, and does it hurt or help Democrats?
Well, local communities here in Denver particularly came up in the mayor's debate last night, and has in forums throughout, is how Denver folks feel about it. I think Denver would like to have the opportunity to try it out. I mean, misuse of drugs is not going to go away. And certainly overdoses and people who don't manage their substance abuse appropriately end up in our emergency rooms. Denver Health just had to ask for an emergency supplemental from the state legislature, more money from the city's budget. Of course, you know, they serve a lot of people who don't do drugs, but the bottom line is when they go to the emergency room, it's costing us a lot of money. And so I think cities like Denver need all the tools they need to manage stuff like this.
You know, though, Dick, there are some that are going to say this is enabling, right? City Council, too, I think it is just a few years ago, 2018 maybe, they voted that they wanted something like this. So you certainly could see maybe Denver moving in this direction.
Well, and that was the kind of stuff that made Denver into the place it is today, a challenging, failing city. That kind of attitude back then. But Shaun, show me the neighborhood or the business that wants a, quote, safe injection site next to them. Nobody wants that. And it was interesting to me that the sponsor in the legislature of this a couple of years ago, who is now a member of Congress, she never talked about this when she was running for Congress. She was one of the main sponsors and big promoters of the bill. And why didn't she talk about this when she ran for Congress last year? I just think this is a loser from a public policy standpoint. And I think it's another example of why Denver is in the situation it is today, because they talk about this kind of stuff.
Mike, you think it'll pass?
No. Not this year, but
because of crime.
Yeah, I think because of crime. And you've talked about some of these things they'll have to come back. They get their
percolate.
Yeah, they got to percolate, and there's a lot of stuff percolating right now.
Right.
That we'll see maybe not next year, but the year after, depending on how successful the Democrats are in the 2024 election.
I think that the Democrats who are sponsoring this should volunteer to have the thing next to their house, including Kevin Priola in Adams County. I mean, he's sitting up there in his nice little neighborhood in Adams. Well, have a safe injection site up there. Provide bus service from Denver. I just think this is such a crazy idea, Shaun. I can't even believe we talk about it, to be honest.
They will be talking about it down at the Capitol.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching Left, Right, Center. We'll see you next time.